Right, hi everyone. If you see my last video on the Salisbury Motorcycle Club charity ride, you will know that I dropped the bike, and what it did is the only damage it had, I got away really lightly, was that it cracked and bent the end of the brake lever. So that was a really easy fix. It only just had to replace the lever, and I got away really lightly. But that's obviously a vulnerable part on the bike, so I've decided now to go and fit the Barkbuster Handguards, and they have now arrived. One of the things I found is lots of videos on YouTube about how to fix the Barkbuster Handguards. If you want to go and have a look at them, by all means go and have a look at them. But one of the things I struggled with was finding out what was the correct version to fit to the bike. So the version I've eventually picked on, and there are two types, is the the STM0300BK handguards. They are the storm guards, they're the storm guards that sort of you can pick up, and they're pretty common to most of the fixing units. So you can see down there which they are, and they're obviously the storm ones. The reason I chose these ones is that they're the wider ones. And one of the little concerns I've got is that when the bike is on full lock, whether the bigger guards are going to fail anywhere, and that's something I'll find out when I come to fit them. But that's the easy part. There's a number of different versions of the handguards, and you can look on the Barkbusters website and decide which look best for you. I chose these because they were basically the biggest and like to give the best protection. Now, the fitting kits that come with them, there are two types. There's one which is single fitting, and it just basically fits onto the end of the handguard and comes out with a bar. And then the more robust ones, which are the ones I bought, which fix in 2 points. One clamps round the handlebars, one fixes into where the handlebar weights go. And that version is it's suitable for the NC750X, but also the V-Strom DL650, the DL1000, and a number of other different bikes. But it basically is to fit handlebars at 22mm, and the SKU number is BHG 04604MP, and these are they, and you can see they're quite robust. That's why I chose them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to unpack them, and we'll have a look and find out what we've got to fit. Now, I must say I've already looked at YouTube and got some tips on how to do that, and the handlebar weights need to come out. But what we'll do is I'll have a read of the instructions, and then we'll be able to give it a go. So what you get is a bag of bits, which is all the clamps and things that you need to fit to the bike. And whether we need all of them or not, I'll find out. And then the aluminium bars. And now these are really strong. It's one of the reasons that you can't bend them. That's pretty strong. They were reasonably expensive, and I suspect that's why. But ultimately, you'll get what you pay for. So let me just have a quick look at this and see if there's any specific and special instructions for fitting to the NC750. Right, so what it's advising is to remove the original handbar end weight and the internal weight parts, and it gives some instructions to do that. And if you've already looked at YouTube, you will know you have to depress two little tabs to get the handlebars out, and then it's just a case of fitting them and using the other little clamps. There's some clamps in here that fit around the handlebar and clamp in, so it looks very straightforward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and give that a go now. Right, I started the installation. The left side and the right side are different according to the instructions, so I decided to tackle the most difficult part first. And the first thing, which wasn't shown in some of the videos I've watched online, is the right hand side. The right hand side requires you to loosen the throttle housing for the grip, and to be able to slide that back so you can get access to the holes to be able to depress the tabs, to be able to release the inner bar end. It first of all seems like quite a straightforward thing. You'll be able to hopefully you'll be able to see it here. Yeah, okay. And it's basically got this cover, which is held on by two screws, and these are these long screws here. Yeah, they're quite long. They're both the same size. And then there's four tiny little silver screws. So let me see if I can just get one. They're quite fiddly. I don't want to drop them. There are four little silver ones here. Yeah, and they fit into these holes, one there and there's one in there. And what that does then is that allows you to slide the whole of the throttle grip back. Now, to start with, I think there's a little locating sort of hole there that the throttle grip fits into, because when it first come to move that back, it wouldn't allow me to do that, so I had to just sort of move it out a little bit. So I think there's a little thing there to do it. But what you end up with, I don't know if you can see, I haven't got a lot of light, I've just had to bring it in under the shed because it's things, but if you can see in there, okay, there's one of the holes that you have to depress, and by sliding this back you get good access. And I believe, though you might not be able to see it, there's one underneath here, so you can hopefully see that there. I'll try and get it as best I can on the camera, but as you can see, it's quite difficult to do. And then all it's basically saying now is that I need to depress those two things and slide the old bar end out without removing the bar end here. Yeah, it's just depressing them and sliding it down. So I'm going to have a go at that now. And obviously I need 2 screwdrivers. I need to do that. And I'm going to try, if I can, rather than using screwdrivers, let me see what I've got. No, I think I have to. I'm just going to use one of these sort of flat ends, and I'm going to have a go at the top one first. So they seem quite hard to depress. So let me. Yeah, there's not a lot of swing in them. So what I'm just going to do, and it says you don't have to, I'm just going to loosen I'm just going to loosen that to see if that gives me a little bit more thing to depress. So let's have a go now. Oh, that's quite difficult. Right. Hey, right, so let's have a rethink about how we're going to do that. A bit of a struggle, but I've sussed it out now, so I just thought before I detach it, I'll just show you. So if you can see here, right, there's the little hole, and that spring is connected to this thing here. And now there's a little tiny, I know it's really difficult to see, but there's a little tiny flap here. And what I managed to do is, rather than depress the spring by putting it into the hole, I managed to get onto the end of this and push that down, and then pull this quite hard, and then be able to loosen one and do the same with the other. What I didn't get was any kind of audible click to know that the spring had actually been depressed, but it just started to move and ultimately come out. And what you end up with is the bar end, the springs, and if you notice, by doing that I managed not to let me make sure I've got the camera so I can see it properly. So what I've managed to do is, once I've got it out, you've got this bit, and as you can see, by using that method I managed to get these out without breaking these. So some of the videos I looked at online, they ended up breaking, but what you can see here is that by pressing those two, see how that springs together, and it just depresses that rubber sort of bush there. You can see there's a split in it to be able to pull that out. But what you're not doing is putting any kind of release on the rubber bushes, so it's still quite tough to take out. Anyway, that's one done. So now we'll look about trying to fit the main handguards. Right, okay, so the instructions are quite good, and for the NC750X, the right side and left side are different in terms of how the spaces go together. So I'm going to do the right side first, and what we need is a number 11, which is this one. Now with the instructions, I'll just show you, they give you some nice descriptions and give you sort of the measurements of the various different bits you need, so it's impossible to get them mixed up if you've got a ruler. So we need one of these, that will then fit in to the bar end weight here, which goes obviously through the guard. We then have a washer which just sits into the bar end weight, the spacer which is 17mm. This is the special bit. This is obviously the collar that's going to fit on there, and then we have the collar nut which is tapered, which will screw onto there, and when that's screwed in, that will expand that to fit within the handlebar. So we're just gonna, oh god, hey, it's all right, found it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to assemble that, and then I'll take it back to the bike and we'll fit that in. The bar end weights seem slightly heavier than the ones that come on the onto the from standard, but obviously they haven't got the internal weights. But with the extra weight of the guard, I don't think that's going to cause too many problems. So that one goes in first, then the washer, then the collar, which is the 17mm one for the right hand side. Then this, make sure you get this around the right way, and that looks pretty close actually, and then the collar will fit into that, and when we then screw that in, when it's into the bike, that will bring it in nice and tight. So there you go, that's how we end up with that bit. So what we've also got is the handlebar weights that screw on this side, yeah, and they will obviously go onto the handlebars, and then there's a set of collars to go in there. But we're going to do one thing at a time and get that fitted, because that's. And what I'm going to do now is just get it roughly right. So it will need adjusting, but I just need to be able to make sure that's pushed in, and that this just nips up enough so that it don't slide in and out, so that I can readjust. So I can readjust the throttle grip to get that right. So there you go. So now I've just nipped that up a bit. That's obviously in a nice tight position, and there's no gap between this bit in here, and I can still see the hole. So that means that the throttle grip could come back, and then I can start to position the throttle grip into position, which I'll probably do next. So what I'm going to do now is just fit the throttle grip back together. Right, on reflection, I don't think these screws needed to come out, to be honest. Look, when I had to loosen them off because it was it just seemed to put quite a lot of pressure to be able to move this back. But I think it just been from when it was assembled. It's never been off before, so it might just been a bit stiff. So if you come to do this, I don't think you have to take these screws out. But obviously I did just to get it moving. But it seems like that's really all that's needed, and then you end up with the main throttle housing, which will then fit in there, and it's holding by these two screws. Like, both of these two screws seem to be the same length. I've not measured them, but I've put them side by side and they seem to be the same length, so I don't think there's a problem with one going in the bottom, one going in the top. Right, okay, so just learned something here, yeah, and hopefully, yeah, hopefully you can see. Right, so in here is an hole, and that locates where the throttle grip comes. So these screws did have to be loosened, but not necessarily these ones, just this one at the back here, which holds this clip in, and on the inside of that clip there, that moves. Let's see if I can show you. That moves and locates into that hole. Yeah, honestly, I'm trying to do it one-handed there. So that locates, and that positions the throttle grip so it's in the correct position, and also allows the screw then to be that side of that clip and locked down. Could you hear that audible click? See, and that then positions the throttle grip correctly. So I'm now just going to do that up, but that's a bit of information that you'll need to know. So you will need to take that screw out to move the throttle clip, and also I had to remove, as you can see, the brake lever, and because I didn't have the freedom to be able to move that in, and that's going to put the throttle grip into the right position, and hopefully I'll go through the clip this time with a bit of luck. I've got that right. So now tighten that up, and the throttle grip, as you can see, which I didn't have before, is nicely positioned. I'm just gonna not overdo them because they're not particularly very strong screws, and that's positioned the throttle grip into position, which then allows me obviously to plenty of access now to fit that and have a go. There's nothing super difficult about it. You can suss it out. It's just if you've never had one apart before, this will hopefully show you how to do that. And it's just these nice little tips which just make the job a little bit longer than it should be. If I had to do this again, it would be a piece of cake to do. And on reflection, that's actually been a good thing, because that's all nice. Look, that's good. What that enables me to do now is to refit the Barkbuster cylinder, and I can reconnect all my bits and pieces here, and make sure that when that bar comes round, it's going to be able to mount correctly, knowing that my brake lever is in the right place. So first of all, I just need to reconnect some of these wires. Let's do the hard one first. It's a hard one, there's nothing hard about it. And this is just the earth for my sat nav, and if you'll see my previous videos, you'll know why I've got these wires where they are. If you haven't wired up your sat nav or used this method, then you won't have these wires. So don't think there's something missing if you haven't got these. Just makes it all a little bit fiddly. Oh, incidentally, if you do have the Barkbuster, please put this back the right way. There's a little arrow which shows which is the top and which is the bottom. So don't just put it on there. Make sure you get it the orientation the correct way round. We can look to reposition this again. And you've got obviously quite a lot of adjustment. I'm sure you'll have to come forward a bit more than that. But hey, let's just do it for now. And this was the little bit that broke off. Right here it broke off, so I had to get a new handle, a new brake lever. Like I say, you can see how they're going to start to work. And this is interesting as well, so on the handlebar under there, I don't know if you can see, there's a little lug that sits out. I don't know what that's for, but that little lug, now incidentally, when that clamp comes round, I don't know if it's been designed this way, but that bracket sits up quite nice to it, and you can see it mounts quite nicely into the handlebar, so it's nice and flush. And one thing which I'm a little bit unhappy with is how close that bolt is to the brake line here, but there is enough clearance. When it all locks up, there's a good sort of 5 mil, 10 mil, no, it's 5 mil easily clearance in there. So but just be careful when you do that to make sure that this Barkbuster cylinder is as far forward as it can be. Right, and then obviously with the clamps around here, I'll just show you, do them up evenly so that you can get these gaps between here as tight as you can, or sorry, as close as you can. I've not done them up properly yet, so I'll close this one slightly. But it's straightforward. I I took the time over it and just wanted to make sure that where do we want these? I think they're protecting them as much as you can. Right, that's the guard done, and now it's just a matter of obviously adjusting this to get this right and fitting the plastics on. So let's have a go at fitting the plastics on, and then we can start on the other side. Right, the plastics look to be really easy to fit. They've got basically two holes here which a little clamp fits to and clamps onto this. There's this little hole here which I'm not sure if something goes through that yet, but let's just look at the little pack, see what we've been given. Yeah, so what we've been given is a plastic screw which obviously fits into this bit and just screws in through this hole, and then you're given a plastic fixing and a number of screws which obviously screw and clamp that together. Okay, so let's have a look. So which way around they go. That's it. Right, so inside the clip there's a little hole and they fill over those little stalks that sit there, so you can push them into place. Yeah, and then you can obviously screw the screw in, which makes a lot more sense. But, right, okay, so that's that side fitted. Let's see what happens when we're on full lock. Oh, so full lock, we have plenty of clearance. As you can see, plenty of clearance there. No problems at all with that on that side anyway. Right, so that's that side done. I ended up with one spare screw, which I'll obviously keep just in case that screw's needed for the other side. And then what we'll then do is go to fit the other clip. Right, so really interesting. Right, the reason I've got that spare screw is because I can't read properly, and one of those little bushes is not used in this application. So if you look down here, the one that they're saying that you use is the one on the outside, and because that screw is in there, you don't need this one, and this is fitted to the other one, so I've got to take this one out, which is a bit of a pain, but hopefully all these little tiny mistakes prevent somebody else from making them. So there you go. What it does do is it does make it a little bit naff, in the sense that you've got two stalks there which won't have a cover on it. So a little bit naff that, but never mind. Right, okay, yeah, so that bit, so you only get one of these each and they go onto there. So I'm not particularly impressed with that, to be honest. It was quite expensive kit, as you know, but look, because you end up with not the clips showing there, but that's what it says, and that's done. So all I've got to do now is do the other side. So like I say, making the mistakes is good for you. And I'm sure I'm not going to have the same mistakes on this side. This side seems to be a little bit easier, so I'll do that in sort of some fast time, so you don't have to watch it. But you've got the gist of what's doing. They're relatively easy. They look really quite substantial. It looks like there's no clearances issues at all, and I'm quite pleased with them. Like I say, that's just a little bit naff that you don't get a little bracket to cover those two steps up. But hey. That's good enough. Right, so on with the other side, but I'm going to have a cup of tea first and then I'll crack on after that. Right, as you can see, this side's a little bit different. You've got the same arm, the same bar end weight and screw, so that's going through there and through there, and obviously you can see that there. We then have 3 washers rather than the one like on the other side, and that fit over there. We then have a slightly different shaped spacer, just going to double check what size this is, so you know. So it's a 13. The 13 is a 10mm spacer, and that one is 10mm. So that fits over there. And then we have the collet that you see before, and then this little sort of tapered nut that will fit into here. So hopefully you can see that. So what we have is the bolt goes through. There's 3 washers in there, sit inside the bar end, a 10mm spacer, the collet, and then this nut, as you know, will spin down into there. Yeah. One of the things which I'm going to do is, now I've seen how it's gone together, is I'm going to fit this bit onto the bar end as well. So I think it goes like that. And the reason I'm doing this is just purely because it's going to be a lot easier to assemble off the bike and not with no fiddly stuff. So obviously it'll all go loosely. And that will fit like that. And then this bit onto the bike. And one of the other things which I am going to do, just to be on the safe side here, is I'm going to fit the handguard on. I can see no reason why you have to fit that afterwards, as I suggest. So while we've got better access, I'm going to fit that. And as you can see, that was a lot easier to fit. And what you can see now is they could have just given you a little bit of plastic to fit onto there. So anyway, let's go get that one done. But first of all, I've got to get back to the bike, and I've got to get those handle grips out, which should be a bit easier now I know how to do it. Right, so back to the bike. Right, the left one got heated grips, which means that what I couldn't do is roll back the grip to be able to depress it. So the only way I could get it out is to, and you'll see the struggle, is to try and ply these down. They sit in there. You can get these 2 little clips at the end, and you can compress them. But what I had to do is then lever them out. Now I've managed to get them out without breaking. Unfortunately, the rubber bung that fits on the end there is stuck in there, and it's not going to come out. So it's as good as it's going to be for me. It's not a problem though. It doesn't mean that there's going to be an issue, because I'll still be able to fit that in there and assemble all of this up, and be able to have the hand grips. Oh, sorry, the Barkbusters protectors and everything in place to be able to do that, and because it's going to be okay, so it's no issue. But what a faff to try and get that out. You know, was a bit of a pain. Right, so also let's see if I can fit everything back before I did it. So I thought I could release these and move it back, give me a little bit of an idea to slide these back, but that didn't work. You know, it is what it is. If you've got heated grips, it's not going to be necessarily as straightforward as the instructions or the other YouTube videos would lead you to believe. But it is possible. But it was a complete faff. Right, okay, the Barkbusters handguards are on. As you can see, yeah, they look all right actually. They look pretty good. I know the other bike's in the way, but you'll get the gist. They do look okay. I've got them as leaving as I can. A few things, right? So it wasn't as easy to fit as some of the videos on YouTube would lead you to believe.
So let me give you a bit of an idea. The right hand side requires you to loosen the master brake cylinder, take the throttle assembly apart and move that across, and there's a little hole in the handlebar that this locates into, which means you've got to take some of the inner screws off. Hopefully you've seen that earlier in the video, and you can slide that back. You can then get onto the clips at the end, which are relatively straightforward to do, and I think I've got them down here so I can show you. So this is the right hand side. Keep the weight on, and all you basically do is you depress them. It says in the instructions there's a little hole to push this down. I couldn't get enough leverage, but as you can see there's the end of the clips there, and if you get a small flat screwdriver, it's not a small flat screwdriver, but you get the idea. What you can then do without the thing on there, you can get on the edge and then you can push them down, and you can see they spring down okay. There's a number of videos which have said that you break these. You don't have to. I got on the edge there and able to pull them out. They were quite difficult to pull out. They've got these rubber sort of bushes on the end, and they grip really, really quite tight. So my first impressions were that I hadn't depressed these enough to be able to pull it out, but it's just a friction tight. You just have to give it a bit of a tight push. But I would manage to, like I say, get on the edge, push them down, and you can just pull. Once they start to move, that's good enough, and then you can use a bit of brute force to pull them out. That was the right hand side. The left hand side was meant to be the simple one. You don't have to mentally take any of the clutch lever here or the switch assembly off. You can do it straight from the end. I did because I thought I could be able to push this down. Now the reason I had some issues with that is I had ET grips fitted, and the ET grip assembly doesn't allow you to roll back. If we look around here, it doesn't enable you to roll back the grip far enough to get to those different things. So what I then had to do was take the bar end off, and in effect what you're faced with is a tube around there, and then it's quite difficult to find. But if you can locate those two little flats there, you can get sort of a screwdriver on the top of them, and as you can see you can compress them, and you can do that. And what I managed to do was compress them down, pull them out a little bit, do the other side, and I couldn't do it with the bar end in, but I had the screw in, and I got a pair of Marlboro rips on the end, and I was able to just wiggle them out. Eventually they were so tight, I got this bit out, but as you can see the rubber end that fitted on there was so tight in there, it's left in there, it got left behind. I'm not bothered by that. The end I'm talking about is the equivalent of that. It's another rubber end. So it's unlikely that I will refit these, but I do have them, and it would just be easy enough to get another rubber clip from the dealers. I can't see that they would be very expensive, and that would enable me to refit the weights if needed. So this is what you end up with as surplus is two of them, right? So the weight of these, and one of my concerns with fitting hand grips is that if you take these bars out, you're going to get some vibes through the bars. I don't really generally don't think that's going to be an issue. Yep. If you look at the bars here, there's this big bit of aluminium. You get a bar end, plus you've got the screws and the fixing bits in there. I think overall the weight is probably going to be the same. This might be a little bit heavier, so I don't think I'm going to get any bars. A ride, I won't know till I get a ride sorted that out. In terms of their look, I bought the Storm covers. There are multiple different covers that you can fit on. There's some flasher sportier looking ones. I bought these because they were the widest and I thought they would give the biggest protection. It depends what you like. I don't think they look pretty. We'll try and get a look around the front. I don't think they look pretty. They're not too bad. I will live with them. but you can get some flasher ones which have lights sitting in here, and that might be the best bit to go. In terms of the overall look, I'm not keen on all of this metalwork here. You know, it's a bit agricultural. You can see there you've got all of this this things in there. What I did also manage to do is I put a little scrape in there, so that's going to have to be a little bit of black paint in there and polish that out. No minor problems there, but that was just my carelessness. In terms of the things themselves, they give you these little black clips. As you can see, they tell you this is fitted with a screw this side, and there's no clip in there, which I think is a bit cheap. They should have just give you one of that to tidy it all up. But that said, I didn't buy them necessarily for the hand guards and the wind resistance, so I'm sure that's going to be really helpful. I bought them for the protection of this aluminium protector here, so that should the bike go over, that's going to protect my levers and also protect the bike. This was in the crash, this was the first bit that touched down, yeah, and was that handlebar, sorry, was that brake lever on that side. This should protect them quite well, and there was no other damage, even though it went over its side, no other damage to the bike that I could see. It's as good as it was before the crash, although you can't see it, but there is absolutely no damage whatsoever. Anyway, job done. We'll see how they perform when I go out for a ride. But that's it. All fitted. But like I say, don't necessarily believe the hype. They're straightforward to fit, and hopefully this video will help you fit them a little bit easier. Having you've seen the little mistakes and the faux pas that I made, but they're a DIY fit, just a bit of a faff getting the inner weights up. Anyway, job done. On to the next.